Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give a moment for participants to enter into today's session. My name is Muhi Khwaja. I am a trainer with Fundraising Academy. And today we are going to be talking about donor relations in communities of color. Thank you so much for joining our monthly webinar. We'll give it just one more minute for people to join in, and then we'll get started. All right. As I mentioned, my name is Muhi Khwaja, and we are so honored for you to be here today with Fundraising Academy. And I wanted to share a little bit more about our work. Fundraising Academy trains emerging fundraisers to deepen relationships with donors through a cause selling approach. We're going to get a little bit into that as well, but a little bit more about myself. I have been one-person development team, chief development officer. I have been part of the American Red Cross for 5 years as a major giving officer. And for the last 2 years, I have been with Fundraising Academy as a trainer, being a moderator on panels such as today, presenter at AFP Icon in the past, and other conferences as well, including our very own Cultivate. It's a pleasure to be here with you as well. And I am also the co-founder of the American Muslim Community Foundation, which helps Muslim philanthropists distribute their charitable giving, and nonprofit organizations set up endowments. It's a real honor to be here today with our panelist and presenter, Alejandra Sotelo-Solis. She is the CEO of her own consulting company called La Pluma Strategies, and more impressively, I think, was the former mayor of National City in California. Prior to starting La Pluma, Alejandra was the age-friendly communities manager at the San Diego Foundation, where she was responsible for development and execution of efforts to promote livable communities for all ages, and managed convenings, service organization relationships, and programming related to the San Diego region's older adult population. Alejandra's work portfolio includes MANA de San Diego as the organization's inaugural development director, UC San Diego Student Affairs and the Chancellor's Office, as well as working with 2 California State Assembly members as a field representative and district director, respectively. A third-generation National City resident and graduate of Streetwater High School and UC San Diego, Sotelo-Solis just finished her first term as mayor after serving her 10th year as a council member. She is a board member of the Suhi Foundation, which provides college scholarships and graduates of her alma mater, and serves as the chair of the National Association of Latino Elected Officials Education Fund. She is also a past board member of Run Women Run. Welcome, Alejandra.
Well, muchísimas gracias, Muji. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. So, buenos dias, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I saw we had some folks from Miami, Ohio. Well, you know what? It's a balmy, I think 78 degrees here in San Diego. So we are having, we're going to have a great time here. Today. So I want to, thank the Fundraising Academy again for the invitation to share some insights with you, and also to answer any questions that you may have. As Muhi shared, my goal today, Calgary, oh my goodness. So sorry, I just saw the chat. We have somebody from Calgary who's saying it is snowing where they are. Again, this is really important dialogue as we talk about how philanthropy really is about relationships, not about transactions, not about what the best giveaway is, not who has the flashiest gala, but real, true, meaningful relationships. And so in this webinar, we'll be exploring strategies for initiating an enduring relationship with prospective donors. And I'll be sharing with you some specific data on that. We want to gain insights into leveraging community-specific perspectives to foster meaningful donor connections. And lastly, and you'll see at the end, there's going to be a lot more takeaways, but for right now, the objectives are to develop those skills to qualify potential donors and deepen existing relationships through stewardship. So with that, we will move in. All right, first poll. Everybody in? Do you currently segment your donor base by ethnicity or race? Take the poll. And I know we were going to launch it, so. Okay. We'll do 5 more seconds. Okay, so of the poll, we have one of the 38 folks that are here, no, 33, and 4 people aren't sure how to discern that information. So again, these are very specific answers that are very, very important. Are we still sharing the results here? Muhi? Can you see the results still?
Yeah, we can.
And so it's really interesting. We collect so much data. We talk about where people live. We talk about their income levels. We talk about what their interests are. It's really also important to see how folks identify. Do they identify as Colombian and Mexican? Do they identify as Muslim, or do they identify as African American and Mexicano? So it's really important, and you ask them. It's about self-identifying as well, because we don't want to put people in boxes either. I think it's really important as you start collecting data from both prospects, but also too the donors that you have already within your database, that you really start asking those questions. And this is how you really build up those relationships. It's not about, hi, how do you identify? How do you, it's not those types of questions. It's really one-on-one, building that deep, very intentional conversation with your donor and your philanthropist, because it's one thing to assume, but we know what happens when we assume. We miss a lot of things, and we can be doing some things wrong. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here. So again, build relationships, not transactions. It's really interesting to talk about, hey, we're going to give out the coolest sweatshirt, or hey, we've got the best organic reusable bag that is going to make your shopping experience amazing because it has our logo on it. But it's more important to really talk about those meaningful relationships, and that those relationships come in good times and in bad. Not just, hey, how wow, we're doing so good in this area. We're raising millions of dollars, but you know what? We may be struggling too. We need your help. And one program, again, coming from the donor, a past recipient, and then even now as past nonprofit staff, Mana de San Diego, as Muhi mentioned, we have a track record of the Hermanitas program, the Little Sisters, that tracks where our middle schoolers need help, mentorship, after school programs, college readiness, and zero teenage pregnancy rates. So the goal is really to, one, attack that, when we talk about addressing a core issue, but two, engaging a group of Latinas who, again, may need that additional mentorship. And then we offer scholarships once they reach that high school graduation age. And once they graduate, then they go off to college. And then again, it's about evolving. Mana started a TIAS program. TIA in Spanish means aunt. So they started a follow-up program once you're in college. Because we all know we can start a program and say, hey, you know what, we got 20,000 kids in college, fantastic, but are they graduating? Are they addressing their mental health? Are they contacting family members? What is their support network? Do they have the tajin or the chamoy or whatever tortillas they need if they're far away from their home marketplace? Do they have that smell of home? So I think that it's really important that as organizations, whether it be the nonprofit or the fundraiser from the entity, really think about how your programs can evolve. And so the TIAS program, was born out of that. And now, in addition to that, it's about a paraprofessional training. We have the Latina Success Program. And so again, it's following people through their various life cycles and focusing very meaningful, purposeful goals for the individual to, one, achieve our mission, achieve our goals of what we want to do as a nonprofit. And then moving forward, how can we continue to grow with the individual? And this is where, when we talk about relationships, those young women who are now college graduates are going to be able to be fostered as potential donors back to the organization. And I think it's important that we recognize that it's not just, oh, did you engage in the program? What did you have? And our past president, who was Venus Molina, she proudly says, and she's working in government, and she says, I still have my mentor when I was 13 years old. And to know that she can pick up the phone and call her mentor for whatever reason, she's been there for all of her very special life moments, and she's now our president of the organization. So it's really important, again, as we talk about, the cause-telling cycle and the ways with which to grow prospects. It's about that meaningful relationship, and it's not just one time either. So I'll let Muhi go ahead and go into the phase 1, 2, and 3 of the cause-telling cycle, and then we'll move forward.
Sure, thank you so much, Ale. And you may be familiar with the traditional fundraising cycle of prospecting and cultivation and stewardship. But oftentimes when you think of the traditional fundraising cycle, it's split up into equal quadrants. But as fundraisers every day, we know that that's not necessarily true. So through Fundraising Academy's cause-telling cycle, it includes 8 essential steps. And regardless of gift potential, these are certain predictable actions that should be and must be performed. And these become the steps in the cycle. There are 3 distinct phases, as Alejandra mentioned. Phase 1 is all the necessary work that needs to be done to prospect for qualified potential donors. You're finding the donor's name when you're prospecting, you're gathering the information you need in the pre-approach, and then you enter into phase 2. This is the face-to-face time you have with prospective donors. You get to introduce yourselves to the donor. That's where you establish the approach. You get to identify and discover the donor's unique passions. That's need discovery. And then you get to tell the story of your organization's mission. That's the presentation. And you get to overcome any potential roadblocks there are to giving. That's where you are handling objections. And then you enter into phase 3. This includes everything after the gift is given. So you ask for the gift, and then you follow up to foster donor loyalty. And that is what we know as stewardship. So this is the framework in which Fundraising Academy operates. Each of these steps, and definitely each phase, could be their own presentation. But as Alejandra is sharing more about establishing relationships with communities of color, we want you to think about it through this 8-step cause selling cycle, so that you can think through what are the steps that you as a fundraiser take to become great fundraisers. Back to you, Ale.
Thank you, Muhi. And so as we look at, the 8 steps, but really recognizing those 3 phases, it's really important to challenge what are the stereotypes of who and what it means to be a philanthropist. Okay, so, we look at, as we're prospecting, we look at, it used to be the 3 T's, time, treasure, talent, right? But it's evolved to become 5 T's, and I'll share with you. So time, again, volunteering; talent, which is the expertise; 3, which is treasure, potentially money, real estate, cars, things that they want to donate; 4, testimony, or spreading of the word, a very positive manner of your organization; and 5 is ties. Ties are really important because people can quickly validate, and they know that you're a trusted entity in the community, and don't even have to second guess, oh, you're affiliated with so-and-so. Oh my goodness, I heard that they did this and they gave away 100,000 diapers. And you know what? That's where I'm gonna put my resources. And it's also too really important as we start talking about what that looks like, just really thinking about where donors of color in particular would give. Again, challenging the stereotypes. In the everyday donor, donors of color, it's the diverse philanthropy during times of change by the Indiana University, by the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. They started in, they initially presented this in 2021, but they updated it in December of 22. And they named 4 major motivations that drive donors of color. 1, faith. So philanthropy is linked closely with the donor's religious beliefs and has deep roots in religious traditions. 2, self-help. Philanthropy can be seen as an economic weapon to fight against racial oppression of the donor's racial or ethnic group. 3, reciprocity. Because many people of color often feel excluded from the mainstream culture, minority groups will form their own communities to share economic reciprocity with each other. And 4, it's leveling the playing field. Donors feel that they want to provide better pathways to success for younger generations, especially in terms of education. So as we start looking at where those opportunities lie, maybe your organization falls in one of these categories. Maybe you have a program that falls in one of these categories, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you should consider it. I think it's all of those opportunities, and I really want to emphasize these are all opportunities. If you're not doing it, it's okay. That's how we grow and evolve. But as the findings share, people of color are really focused on these 4 elements. So the study went on to find that each organization or each ethnic group had a specific focus as to why they gave. Asian Americans, violence and discrimination against Asian and Asian Americans has increased, and this xenophobia led many Asian Americans to speak out against, that violence and discrimination and focus on causes to support. It was the foundation of the Asian American Foundation that was started because of this. And we know that through that, many Asian American communities work in solidarity with Black, Latino, and Indigenous groups. And so, as you start thinking about every opportunity, yes, to fundraise, well, think about the relationship that you can build through these various causes that are so important in the daily lives of each of these ethnicity groups, and why they're giving. And because of, unfortunately, the xenophobia during COVID-19, as I mentioned, the Asian American Foundation raised over $250 million to educate, empower, and protect. As we saw much violence, really engaging the Asian American community and the community at large. So, and again, the AAPI donors were motivated to causes that stimulated a broader conversation on racial inequity. As we talk about Indigenous communities, that same report said, the importance of getting money to the people during the crisis of COVID-19 and supporting long-term economic recovery was utmost importance. The expansion of giving during COVID-19 showed that the Native American and Indigenous community gave not just to the local level, but gave up to the national level. So when you look at opportunities, whether you're a local chapter or a national organization, there is an opportunity to really see how our Native American and Indigenous communities address the community needs, and really how your organization can help address those needs. And again, the emphasis on mutual aid and support of community needs. Many of the communities observe new opportunities for cultivating allies as people from the outside of the American Indian and Native American communities, many of who had little connection to or awareness of these communities before. So generously, they gave millions of dollars to Indigenous communities through numerous crowdfunding platforms. So again, recognizing within the Indigenous communities, this is, again, the support of long-term economic recovery, as well as getting money to the people. And that's where you as the nonprofit fundraisers can help make that connection. So African Americans and Black Americans, we saw that through the Black Lives Matter movement and Black organizations, it spiked in 2020. And Black donors were concerned about the economic recovery efforts for the Black community. And they saw that there was donors that engaged in major giving, including families pooling those resources to give large gifts. And as you think about it, with the Black Lives Matter movement, one focus group participated, and it showed that 50% of their donations went to Black-led organizations. So that goes to a reflection of your own organization. Who is leading your entity? Are you asking what leadership looks like, what diversity, as we start talking about DEI and diversification of boards and or advisory councils of each organization? Can we bring those treasured voices, the ties, the trust into and to the table of the organizations that we work with. And then lastly, we know that there's religiously affiliated Americans. They expressed a need to expand the definition of philanthropy to include informal giving featured prominently among faith leaders within their focus group. And they focused on social justice causes being supported through funds set up by houses of worship or religious nonprofits. They have particularly highlighted Black-led and focused organizations. Faith leaders are supporting historically marginalized communities through education and taking on intermediary roles. Here in San Diego, we know that San Diego Organizing Project, which is a nonprofit, faith-based led organization, social justice focused, they've had several town halls, conversations, meeting of the minds, lunches, brown bag lunches, and really creating an environment where all people of all religions can come to speak on the topic at hand, whether it be the floods that we just had here in San Diego, rent control, recognizing environmental injustice. There's just so much within the religious affiliated community that, sometimes gets overlooked, but really should take into account. And, I appreciated Muhi in his introduction, him sharing about his experience, sharing within the Muslim community and really getting those resources out to needed participants and needed communities. And so lastly, I just wanted to share that churches have particularly a long history of sending money to mission projects for general use all over the world. And so in the past few years, however, they've started assessing and responding more to local needs through mission motivated lenses. And right now we know there's a lot going on in the world, a lot. I won't even go there, but we have a lot of things where people can give. But in this report, it showed that there was now a more local focus in some of the religiously affiliated groups. So definitely things to consider as you start your, again, really looking at how you engage with communities of color. So, a ver, did you know that in 2020, the US Latino GDP, the gross domestic product, was calculated at nearly $3 trillion, making the US Latino population equivalent to the 5th largest economy in the world? Did you know that? And did you know that in the 2020 census, more than 62 million people identified as Hispanic or Latino? I share this because there is a stereotype that Latinos do not give. And you'll see, are Latinos really not philanthropic? And you'll see that in my little image here. And the reality is no, we are very philanthropic. And you'll see in the second quote here, it says 65% of Latinos reported that they donated material goods, and 49% reported that they volunteered for a philanthropic cause. More than 60% of them surveyed Latinos reported that they gave to their families, and nearly 50% said they gave through crowdfunding or social media. We know that these two methods, crowdfunding and supporting one's family members, are considered non-traditional forms of philanthropy, but it's also not a tracked way or reported way of tracking how Latinos give or support each other. And so as a result, it's easy to interpret charitable data that underestimates the Latinos' true philanthropic contributions to the US. And Araceli Munoz, in this article, she says Latinos' philanthropic contributions, like all other contributions by the Latino community, are worthy of being highlighted, recognized, and celebrated. She's a Dallas, Texas Latina philanthropic leader. And so as we start talking about what that means, the Latino community's population and economic impact, yeah, we make headlines, but as we start talking about how we as fundraisers look to the Latino community, yes, there are some programs that are we are the beneficiaries, but more so, we are the ones who give to the community. And if we go into the Eli Lilly report of 2023, it says that Latinos said they were philanthropic. And again, the 65% reported that they gave material goods. We know that it's important to look at those 5 T's. Where is it that, as you looked at the cause selling cycle, as you're prospecting, where can any of these donors of color fall in? Time, treasure, talent, ties, and really engaging your organization. Where can you do that? And in in another study, it was really interesting when I read this. In a report for Bank of America, it found that affluent Latinos are nearly 4.5 times more likely to have a private foundation than affluent white or Caucasian Americans or Caucasian individuals. Now, how they define affluent. The target population was comprised of ages 18 and older, residing in the US, whose annual income was at least $200,000 and whose assets were at least $1 million, excluding the primary residence for 2022. Now, the stereotype may not fit that, but guess what? Latino small business owners and Latina small business owners are on the rise. And that means that you cannot overlook those local small business, mom and pop, whether it be the taco shop, the tortillas, the bookstores, the pharmacy. These are the organizations that you should be looking to cultivate. And as you look at where folks wanted to really look at, it said personal values or beliefs. You should be really looking at where an organization, where a prospect is focusing. There's a lot of small businesses that give to the local baseball or the baseball or softball league. They give to the PTA. Really connecting, do they have that relationship already built? And if not, how can you bridge that? The other ones are interest in the issue area, recognizing a reputable nonprofit, perceived need of organization or issue area. If you or you know of someone who benefited the organization, those are like the top 5. So again, maybe you look to your program participants. You don't have to look far. It's really looking internally within your own organizations, because if you looked at the bottom, affinity group discussions and endorsement or pressure from social circle, those fall on the bottom. So the pressure doesn't work. It's about meaningful connection. And did I understand, or did I have a connection to the services that were provided? Did I receive a pack of diapers when it was my time of need? As we move forward, why I'm sharing the language and communication strategy. Where are you putting your information out? We know that Latinos, and this was a Pew research study that came out just in March, reported that US-born Latinos overwhelmingly get their news in English and prefer it in English. However, those born outside of the United States have much more varied habits. 41% get their news in Spanish, 26%, so let me repeat that. 41% get their news mostly in Spanish, 26% get their news primarily in English, and 31% get it equally. Similarly, 47% of Latino immigrants prefer to get their news in Spanish. So when you are looking to share the wonderful things of your organization, are you putting that information out to where, whether it be prospective, program participants, or donors who, wow, you're doing all of this? Are you considering other languages? And maybe if you don't have somebody who speaks Spanish, maybe you get one. Or you invest in, yourself to get that Spanish language, or Tagalog, Spanish language, additional language to be able to communicate in those spaces. And as you see here, the social media, I keep clicking forward, sorry guys. Most of this does not cost a lot of money. We talk about having like zero program media dollars. Well, then you should really consider where you invest, even if you have a little bit, which is your time. Look at your social media. 21% of Latinos are getting their information digitally on digital devices, 65% social media, news websites and apps, random searches, and podcasts. So those are all spaces where you as an entity can share that information. Now, the ones that cost money, television and radio and print, they're still looking for partners. Sometimes you can give them a trade when it comes to an event or a table. They can come highlight your organization's gala or see where all the puppies are, being fostered. All of those elements are extremely important, but I want to show you this because this research came out just in March of this year. And if you look at the first four, those are things that right now, even if you were to buy, let's say a social media ad, it's pennies on the dollars to your reach of where you can really get in contact with, again, from program participants, volunteers, all the way to prospective donors and actual donors. So share the connection with those partners and consider where you're going. Some of them that we worked with in the past, El Latino, a Latina-owned newspaper, Univision, Telemundo, KSDY 50, Filipino Press, La Prensa. So again, all of these spaces have that. And many of your organizations already have those social media networks. So buff it up and consider where you are sharing that information. So one of the things that I wanted to share is that in that same report that I was sharing about Bank of America, that shared that affluent Latinos are approximately 6 times more likely than their white counterparts to have established a giving circle or to have given to one. So what is a giving circle? I was going to say, let's take a poll, but we won't. But I will share with you, a giving circle is a group of individuals who share the same values and who pool their resources and work collectively and directly to their charitable donations. Here in San Diego, I'm proud to say, proud member, and I saw Allison here, Latina Giving Circle. One of the most well-known giving circles in the US is the Latino Giving Circle Network, which is part of the Latino Community Foundation. And, it's really about democratizing and diversifying philanthropy. And how does that happen? It's really about the members deciding where the money goes. We can say, you know what? We want it to go to, early childhood education programs. Well, if you are a fundraiser or somebody seeking a grant, consider looking at these giving circles with, it evolves every year, so they may have a different thing, but recognizing that they will have that communication and engagement on how to give that pooled resource. And it can be from $500 all the way up to $500,000 in those grants that are provided through Giving Circle. And the democratizing part of it is each member has a vote and onto where the money gets sent. It's also shifting the narrative over who is considered a philanthropist. As we talk about, I'm a member of Latina Giving Circle, and in a report from In Abundance, as you see here, In Abundance, an analysis of thriving landscape of collective giving in the U.S., in an effort to organize donor bases that mirror communities, collective giving emerges as an important approach that effectively involves donors from historically marginalized groups and communities. And it really is interesting because it says that during the focus group of this report, and I know that many San Diego members participated, researchers heard time and time again that it was not until the donors joined their group that they embraced the identity of being a donor or philanthropist, despite giving before becoming a member. And so given their involvement in collective giving, it's not surprising that once they join, 87% of member survey respondents then identified as donors and or philanthropists. So again, collective giving really is an opportunity to give to community-based organizations because it's hyper-focused. Folks say that, or I'm sorry, in this report, it said 77% of the respondents reported that their group prioritized local organizations and leadership that reflected the community. So again, what is our organization looking like? How can we really be intentional with growth within our organizations and even our advisory boards to reflect that? And, recognizing that they are hyper local. The collective giving, really pushes the boundaries of how philanthropy is practiced. So as I shared, the 5 T's, time, treasure, talent, testimony, and ties, it really is thinking about all of, yes, the prospects of, yes, having a $1 million legacy donor. Okay, but it really is, how is Miss Smith's family doing? How is she dealing with the flood that took over her home? How is she able to get through day to day? Now, Miss Smith may not have had any of the impact, but maybe she did. You should be talking to those donors and those prospects. Just check in with them. Just check in. And because many donors start off as volunteers, you want to have those opportunities. And in particular here, we saw with the Chicano Federation, they came out and were cleaning up as a nonprofit, came out and helped program participants, yes, but that neighborhood as a whole to pick up the impacted housing and the trash and the mud and everything that was very dangerous to the residents, but they all signed waivers, so that was okay. But I think it's important to recognize that there's times to ask for monies, and then there's times that people will give of their time, that will give of their resource to make sure that they address the things that matter to them, and really move the needle in helping improve the quality of life for those individuals. And really looking at collective giving impacting the members' health, well-being, and agency. This report also showed that improved feelings of personal agency in their communities as a result of their group participation. And they believe that their social influence and feeling that their voices matter. So this is how we empower those marginalized communities to really give back, hyper focus on what the issues are that they want to address, and having that connection to the community. So really consider where that is. And, just lastly, within the collective giving, it's, showing that collective giving fosters bonds within groups and bridges across communities. Really the creation of social capital, which again is the connections, the reciprocity and trust within communities and between them. Communities, can be constituted as shared space, common identity, and many members played a pivotal role in collective giving. 77% of groups acknowledge that common affiliation or identity among their members. I'm a woman, I'm an LGBT member, I am a practicing Catholic, I am a dog aficionado, really being able to say this is where we are pulling our resources, giving their members that identity and that shared stories about how their own identities really connected with a larger community and within those marginalized communities. So you see, it's not just, oh, I'm going to pull my resources and I'm going to just give. No, it's about acknowledging, again, that real deep-based relationship and how people are really making a difference with their resources. So again, you have the 5 major themes there. And, as we
one thing that I wanted to mention, Alejandra, as well, is like really looking at your organization's beneficiaries, and is it reflected in your organization's leadership? Is it reflected in your organization's donor base? What are ways in which you can integrate your communities of color that you are serving into your organization? And that could be by offering them a position on an advisory council, asking them to be a volunteer, engaging them in different ways, more than just beyond being a donor. And I think if we are able to implement that and invite more diversity into our organization, it will just have that trickle effect as well.
Very much so. And I think that that's really important. Everybody has a role and an opportunity to get that tap on the shoulder and say, hey, have you considered, would you care to join? Would you like to learn more? And sometimes it's that tap on the shoulder. Maybe they're not able to do it right then and there. Maybe you follow up 6 months from there, a week, a year, but keep it on your radar, because there are and will be opportunities for that partnership. And again, maybe it's not even for your organization. Maybe it's for somebody else, and you are that bridge to connect said entity or person to a space where they can really fulfill what fulfills them and what fulfills the organization. So in summary, fundraising should never feel transactional. I love the grocery bag. I love my water bottle. But when you're looking at what we really want our donors to feel, is that it's a relationship. It's long-term. I would say it's a marriage. We're here for the long term, good and bad, in sickness and in health. And that might mean that we have to invest more time. So that's also too reflective of how your organization supports that investment in your donors and your program participants, and how you get things out into the media. Part of your professional development, how you are able to do that and balance all the other roles, from the mailers to the getting of the flyer out, to talking to donor X, is the flower arrangement ready, to what is the meal plan for the gala. all of these elements. Oh, and then not to mention if you have talking points for boss. So all of these elements are things to really consider. Second, challenging stereotypes of the word philanthropist. Really, even using that in your vocabulary, make it part of how you address prospects. You're a philanthropist. When I hear that word as a donor, I'm thinking, wow, I'm really making a difference. I am, my $50 or when I grow up, 50,000 bajillion dollars, I'm making a difference. This is important. And we know that the ask, when we make an ask, it's the same if we're asking for $5 to $5 million. The worst thing they can say is no. But in our head, it's no, just not right now. Let's see how we can build that relationship so we can get to a yes. But also, why would you want to give to us? Why? What is the relationship that we can truly build longer term? The next opportunity. Yes, thank you so much, Janet. Appreciate that. Donors may start off as volunteers. So as we start talking about those 5 T's, we can't just go and ask them for money. You need to really show that there are ways to learn more about your organization, to learn more about the mission, and things that don't cost. We know that the San Diego Food Bank goes and has multitude of events throughout the city and engaging all throughout San Diego from, we have a multitude of agencies that have mentorship opportunities as well to, hey, shadow, one of their executives. Also to thinking outside the box, not just the 9 to 5, but after hours events. I mentioned the floods earlier. We saw during COVID-19, many organizations stepped up, opened their doors to providing life-saving, items, whether it be testing, food, vaccine information. All of those things were essential. And we saw volunteers post-COVID now. We see that people are hungry and wanting to learn more and do things in person and to engage. So this is definitely a call to get those volunteers out. Building sincere relationships and focusing on relationship-driven fundraising strategies are key to sustaining those long-term donors and attracting potential future donors. Again, looking at, yes, where people are at in their lives, what, the investigation of, oh, what is their net worth? Yes, however, it's not the end all and be all. And we know that, as I mentioned, within the giving circles, these are marginalized groups that aren't even being talked to as prospective donors. Using the word philanthropist, using the opportunity to give back. And as I shared with you in that example of Latinos, we are giving, we are participating in that, that charitable giving. We just had a friend who passed away from cancer, and they're doing crowdfunding. We know that people step up and give to those crowdfunding platforms. But again, it's not tax deductible. We're not giving to a 501c3. No one will ever know unless you put your name there. Most of the time it'll come out as anonymous. We will give. It has to be to the right purpose and right organization. Look to those giving circles, really do some research. The Latina Giving Circle has been a phenomenal organization. We have Rita and Michelle and Allison, and I know I'm missing a bunch of people. Oh, and Dominique, who have all been part of the Latina Giving Circle for years. And we ask the community, hey, what do you need? And many times it's for general use. You use it as needed. We know that when it's very program specific dollars that have to have this metrics and have to have this KPI, and you have to tell us every 6 months how many people showed up. And sometimes that's very overwhelming for the organizations, especially if they don't have the infrastructure to track all that. But many times giving circles allow for some autonomy for nonprofits and agencies to do what they need to do. And sometimes it's general fund money that has no strings attached per se, but just get it done with how you need. And I would say, lastly, where do you share your news? Mission-driven connections and strategic data utilization. Again, that Pew Research report came out just in March, and that's one group. If we went in and looked at all of the data gathering or how different communities receive their information, you'd be surprised, where that gap is and how you can bridge that information about your organization, as well as sharing the successes of your entity. Be very strategic, and you'll see that you will build those connections and send that report. And if you do get on TV or the radio, or you have a social media ad where you look fabulous, send it to the donor. If you have a TikTok that was just like blew up, send that. You can't always assume that everybody saw it. Maybe you have to repitch it yourself to your own organization via your newsletter or your listserv. Being able to share that information, I think, is really, really important. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity again to share my insights with you. I'm Alejandra, CEO, President of La Pluma Strategies, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you so much, Alejandra. And to everybody else participating, feel free to drop questions into the Q&A, and you will receive a link with access to the slide deck and recording and a follow-up email in the next few days. That's usually the #1 question, but we want you to ask questions in regards to the content, what you heard from Alejandra, and feel free to put it in the chat as well. But again, thank you so much for being part of today's discussion. And as they come through, we will read them out if anybody drops the questions in. But as a reminder, we want you to connect with us. You can find Alejandra and myself both on LinkedIn, also Fundraising Academy. And just as a reminder, we want you to log into our online learning portal. You can find it at register.fundraising-academy.org, and you will have access to today's webinar along with all of the past content that we have produced, all free to you. And there's a lot of great resources in the online portal. So we do have a question from Jessica, and she's asking, what advice would you give to a Latina who is just starting in the development world?
Well, and it was Jessica?
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, so we know that whatever career you go into, there's always that learning curve. Get to know your team members, get to know your supervisor, really look at what your 30, 60, 90-day plan is, what the expectations are of you. And then from there, hit those goals, hit those milestones. And if there's hiccups on the way, really engage, maybe another peer as to what steps and strategies they use. We have also too the AFP chapter here that is amazing. You could even join the Fundraising Academy. I also participated in several fundraising academies through other entities that help you focus on all of the elements that we talked about, how to finalize your pitch, make sure that you're getting the mission, why you're so wonderful in a 30-second little statement, but also to know that it's okay. I will definitely open up my network to anyone who wants to reach out, to chat. I'm open to cafecito. Jennifer or Jessica, I don't know where you're at in the world, but I'm always open to a virtual cafecito, but also to just knowing that it's okay. It's okay to, if you're the only Latina there, know that we're there behind you. You may not know us, you may not know our name, but we are praying and hoping that you have the best opportunity and career wherever you are as a fundraiser and a fundraising professional, and know that only way is up, and you can help really hone your skills too. If you are bilingual, show them. I can go in front of Telemundo or Univision or give that interview and share about our organization. I can, I have an instant translator on hand, my grandma, who can help me, get this out in the open. It's really, but validate that too. And this goes for all of us. If there is a interpretation or translation benefit as an employee, make sure you find out about that, because there is a lot of benefit to being bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual even, and you should be compensated for that. So Jessica, feel free to hit me up. We'll do a virtual cafecito or in person. You can do it. I'm proud of you, and we're here behind you for whatever you need.
That's some great advice. And I think another thing, she did mention the AFP, check out your local chapter for the LEAD program and for the mentor-mentee program as well. And I would imagine that the Latino Community Foundation probably has some resources and probably even an affinity group for AFP as well. So some places for you to start. We have a few more as well, so we're going to get to it. Claudia mentions, thank you so much for your time and insight. I've had the pleasure to collaborate alongside your leadership, and it was truly inspiring. As the only Latina in my organization and my leadership role, how can I help the organization expand in their practices to look outside of their safe space and continue to grow?
I would say bring them to the community. If they are, sometimes we get really comfortable in our bubble or our little fiefdoms, that, oh, we're giving out this amount of money, we are amazing, look at how many people we've impacted. But maybe that next staff retreat should be in the community that you're serving. I know there were times where in the community of National City, I said, hey, have you looked at Olivewood Gardens? They have a wonderful retreat space. Have you considered our aquatic center? All we need to do is talk to the Port of San Diego. We know that in City Heights, there are a multitude of spaces that nonprofits have. And if you are that said nonprofit, or you are looking at different spaces, consider taking folks there. Or sometimes maybe it's breaking bread. Let's go down to get some wonderful, Middle Eastern food. Challenging where you actually break bread and you learn about the culture and you talk about things. Because sometimes it's getting out of that comfort zone where people can have that conversation. And when people have something in their mouth, it's easier to get a nod of, oh, because they can't talk back. And so I think it's really thinking of those spaces. And also, I would say inviting people like myself, inviting people like Muhi and people who are part of the speaker series of the Fundraising Academy to challenge that. Sometimes it takes a different set of eyes to come in and, hey, have you thought about this? And not taking no for an answer. Say, okay, you haven't thought about it. So what's next? What are you going to do to address this issue? Because you cannot, and as we evolve, you cannot stay stagnant or you're going to get left behind. And guess what? The organization isn't going to grow. And you, as a fundraiser, are going to have much more of an uphill battle. And then that's where you end up saying, okay, is this where I'm supposed to be? You really have to consider that. That's far down the line, but you have to really do it in a way that's professional and engaging. But also too, sometimes staff or HR will send out, quality of life surveys for the employees. If you can stay anonymous, maybe you mention it there. Or, you engage in a way where, hey, have we thought about this? And again, I think it's where you have it, break bread with people, but just don't take no for an answer. And again, you have to be professional because this is always in a professional setting, but be able to help go back to the mission. What is our mission? Why are we doing this in the first place? And we know that things work slow. I was in government for 15 years. To move the needle means that you have to have policy in place. Well, how do you get policy in place? You get community input, you get engagement, you get the leaders to buy in. And by leaders, it could be the elected officials, it can be all the PTA moms. And that's the community collective that can really rise up from the bottom and show organizational leadership. Oh my gosh, we are missing something. We are not hearing from the community truly, or the collective of where we should be. So I think those are all, I gave you a bunch of ideas, but from internally to externally, but I think you can do that.
Thank you, Ale. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Bray mentioned, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how to activate board members to be more involved with the fundraising process.
It's interesting. You have the 5 T's. And yes, each board has a give or get, whether it be $50 to $5,000 to $50,000, you have that give or get. It's hard at times when people are in different spaces career-wise, and you brought those board members on for various reasons. You have to be strategic. You have to know what the skill sets are that each one of those board members brings. And I would say, and I mentioned this to another fundraising professional, I asked, okay, have you brought any of your board members to speak to the youth group that you're talking to about financial literacy? And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you've got presidents and you've got directors. You know what? They would probably want to see how directly the organization that they support is giving back. And they had never, and this isn't existing, or they had not invited their board members to participate. Again, as almost like volunteers, but participate at a higher level to what the organization was doing. And I think as board members see the impact and see how it's able to make a difference. Sometimes it's the crying of a board member at an event where a mom is helped and they're like, oh my God, they have that moment of, oh my God, this is why I give to my organization. I'm so connected. They might give more, but you have to ask them. Maybe they lost their job, but they give to the organization because they really believe in it. Maybe a partner has cancer and they're not sharing it with everybody. Maybe a kid is struggling with something in school and they can't share that. Maybe they lost a grandparent. I don't know. So it's hard to give one straight answer, but you have to understand your board members. And it may take more time on your end because you should be able to say, you know what, with 10 board members at a give or get of $3,000, I know I'm going to get $30,000. We do the math, right? But if we know that there are struggles amongst 5 of them, well, then you should be able to quantify what their hours of volunteerism, what it means. Because back in the day, it used to be for every $1, and this was kind of campaign focused, the political sense, for every $1 that your opponent had, you had to get 8 volunteers. I'm sorry, every $1,000 that your opponent had, you had to get 8 volunteers. So do the math, and you can literally qualify and quantify what their time means to the organization. And we don't do that enough. We say, oh, we're just going to raise money. Well, yeah, but that's how you get those marginalized groups and historically underserved communities who are giving back. You give them value, and time is of value. So I think that really thinking about it in different ways, it's easy to say, oh, you haven't met your give or get, sorry, you're out. But you should also to see, have they made a connection that led to a donor? Did it lead to an event that was very successful in community X? Those things do matter, and we should be giving that value as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things in looking into board engagement is, what is the culture of philanthropy at the organization? How can we encourage board members to set an example? Definitely the board chair, definitely the development committee. What are ways in which we can activate a board? And in the learning portal at Fundraising Academy, we have a session on supercharging your board for fundraising. So I think that would be a great session to look back at and kind of see what they encourage. And absolutely, give or get policies, 100% giving. What are ways in which you can activate your board to be more engaged in fundraising itself? Great. I don't see any more questions, but again, feel free to reach out directly to Alejandra and myself on LinkedIn, register in the portal for any new content that you'd like to see and ongoing materials that we continuously update in there. And again, you can visit our website at online.fundraising-academy.org. These sessions count towards CFRE education credits. So the more that you are able to do and earn your continuing professional development accreditations, the stronger your organizations will be in the end. So again, thank you so much to Alejandra for your time and your expertise and sharing it with us. And thank you to the audience for your time and participation. And to help us continue to improve our monthly webinar series and ensure we provide a value to you, our audience, please take a few moments to complete our survey that will appear on your screen at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, everyone.
Con mucho gusto. De nada.